Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. It is my first time doing a Facebook Live cooking show, so I hope you guys are ready for a little bit of fun. We have a first time cameraman behind the camera too, so bear with us if we are having some technical difficulties or moving a little slow. Anyway, so today I decided to do a black bean soup recipe, and there's a couple reasons why I decided to do this recipe. One, because it's super simple and you don't need a ton of ingredients. And two, because the recipe itself is really versatile. You can have it as a soup, you can use it for rice and beans, you can use those beans for making taco bowls or burritos or anything fun that you would want to put flavored beans into. And lastly, there's a lot of components to it that will teach you how to cook in general. I know there's a lot of people out there who are seasoned cooks, but I've also had a lot of people telling me that they don't know how to really cook at all, and now that we're all kind of stuck at home and quarantined, they don't even know where to begin. So we are gonna start, we're gonna do a nice little easy into it, and along the way, if you guys have any questions, you can definitely type them into Facebook Live, and at the end, I will try and answer you all back as best I can, okay? So we're gonna start off with some pretty standard ingredients. We're gonna do celery, carrot, and onion. These three ingredients are really great to start any soup or stew with. Together, they're called a mirepoix. And if you are making any soup, from chicken soup to chicken cacciatore to any vegetarian soup, these three ingredients are gonna be really great to start with. So we're gonna start with our onion. I always like to have a trash bowl, so you can just kind of put stuff aside. If any of you are following me on social media, I like to take my scraps and make things out of them, like a vegetable broth or maybe a different dish. So I always put everything aside, and at the end I sort through it and decide what we can keep and what we want to get rid of. So we're gonna cut the onion. My favorite way to cut an onion, my Aunt Linda actually taught me this, so thank you, Aunt Linda, if you are watching. We have the two ends. We have the stem end and we have the top end. What we do is we cut the top end off. Sorry, that. And we're just gonna take a nice little slice and go into our skin. Now we're gonna take the onion skin off. Now, we always wanna make sure that we take all of the soft skin off. We have this nice little papery layer, but then sometimes underneath it we have a layer or two of this like softer skin. We want to get rid of that. It's not gonna cook the way that we want it to. It's gonna have a weird texture, so we're just not gonna keep that. And it's better to take off more layers than to leave the layers on. All right. So if we're going to chop an onion, there's all different ways to do it, and I'm sure that some of my culinary friends may disagree with me on this, but this is the most efficient way I've found, is that we're gonna wanna take our onion, lay it on its side, obviously keep your fingers in, and we're gonna cut a grid into the onion down towards the stem. When we're making soups, we want our mirepoix pieces to be tiny. When you get to the other side, you flip it over. So that it kind of blends into the soup. Once you do it one way, you flip it on the other side. And you come here. So then, as you can see, it's almost like a little grid of onions, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna place it on its side again and just chop into little squares. For this recipe, if you want to use a white onion or a Spanish onion, you absolutely can. This just happened to be the onion that I had on hand today. Red onions will lose a lot of their color in the stew as they're cooking, so it won't look purple. We're going to discard that. If there's any pieces that still look like they might be a little too big, you can just kind of pop your knife in there and get rid of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put it into a bowl so that when I am ready to add everything to the pot, it's all set and ready to go. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the celery. I have already washed my celery stalks. We're gonna need 2 of them, and I cut off any of those ends that are a little fibrous and maybe not what we want. So the way to cut celery, at least my way to cut celery, Betty came to join us, if you can see her, because she hears I'm cutting vegetables, which are her favorite. But anyway, back to the celery. My favorite way to cut it is that we are going to just cut it right down the middle. So slide it all the way down. If you want them a little smaller, you just do it again. Now remember, this is going to get chopped up and cooked in the stew, so it doesn't need to be perfect. You just want it small enough so that they're in really nice bite-sized pieces. Okay. All right, so once we get them all together, we're going to lay them straight across. Again, when we chop, we want to make sure our fingers stay like this. When we do this or we do this, we kind of lose one and we get in the way. Also remember that when we're using a chef's knife, the back end is going to be the sharpest part. So if we're cutting like this, it's going to be harder, it's easier for our knife to slip. What we want to do as best we can is put the front of the knife in a stable position and chop with the back of the knife. Go nice and slow, and as you get comfortable, you can go faster. But this is going to greatly decrease the amount of time it takes you to prep any veggies that you want to put in any food. So we can put that right in with the onion because it is going to go in this pot at the same time. And we're going to move on to our carrot. So these are already peeled. You don't have to peel carrots, but if the outside is a little dry and just not looking great, you can peel those off. I always cut the stem end off on both of them. If you have a nudgy bulldog, you might want to cut a piece off and drop it to her on the floor to make her happy. So with carrots, they're a little harder. They're a root vegetable, but we still want to cut them into equal pieces. So again, we're just going to put it down the center and chop them right in half. And we're going to do that twice. For this size carrot, twice is going to be fine. But if you have a bigger carrot, you may have to do it a few more times so that, again, you want nice, manageable pieces. This is going to be a soup, so we want to be able to get it all in one bite. So we're going to do the same thing. All right, so same as we did with the celery, we're going to line up all of our little pieces. We're going to hide our fingers, and we are going to chop. Okay, and we'll put these guys in here. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to chop up our garlic and get the rest of our ingredients ready to put into our soup. Okay, so garlic is not considered part of our mirepoix. It is a separate ingredient. Now, garlic's really aromatic, and we want to cook it long enough to release the flavor and the smell, but not so long that it starts to break down. So that's why we put it in just a little bit after the beginning of our mirepoix. All right, so we're going to have 4 garlic cloves, and I'm going to show you my trick on how to open them efficiently because really these skins can be kind of a pain in the butt to get off. So what we're going to do, we have the stem end again, just like garlic, and the grow end. And we're going to take a knife and we're going to chop off the stem ends of these garlic cloves. Then what we're going to do is we're going to lay our garlic clove flat, place our knife flat on top of it, and with the heel of our hand, we're just going to smash it. What that does is it allows us to take the skin off really easily of our garlic cloves. So we're gonna hit those nice and easy. And look at that, peels in no time whatsoever. Okay. And you wanna make sure you get all the skin off of the garlic, just the same as you get it off of an onion. Same thing, when you're eating a warm, delicious, really yummy soup, the last thing you want to do is be peeling garlic skin off of your tongue. So again, we're just going to mince this garlic. We're going to cut it one way, turn it, and cut it the other way for all of these guys. Again, keep those fingers in and use the back of the knife to cut and the front of the knife to stabilize. Now when we have a big group of stuff like this, we want to be careful because we have nothing to hold on to. So we place our non-cutting hand on top of the knife, again to stabilize, and we're going to cut this down. Again, we're going to cut these into nice tiny pieces, but nothing has to be perfect. I like my food a little bit more rustic, so if we have some uneven pieces, that's okay. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our spices. For our spices today, we're going to use cumin, coriander, and paprika. They are some of my favorite spices to use. For our cumin, we're going to use a teaspoon. Our coriander, our cumin, we're going to use a half a teaspoon. Coriander, I'm going to use kind of like 3/4 of a teaspoon. It's kind of one of my favorite spices, so I always put just a little extra in there. And our paprika, we're going to put a half a teaspoon in as well. Okay, and as for salt, we are going to use a whole teaspoon. Obviously, if you are trying to cut salt out of your diet, please feel free to cut that down. It'll still be delicious. And we're only going to use about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Okay. So for the rest of our ingredients, we have some olive oil, a jar of your favorite salsa, and then we're going to get to our black beans. So what we can do, there's two different ways. I like to use pre-soaked black beans that were dried originally, and then we use the beans and the liquid to cook. If you don't feel like soaking and cooking dried beans, that's totally fine. What you can do is 4 cans of black beans, make sure you drain the liquid out, and vegetable broth. We're going to use 6 cups of that, okay? And again, I'm going to go over that a little bit more as we go. And the last thing that we're going to use in this recipe is a lime. So before we ever want to juice anything, we want to kind of roll it out. It just kind of loosens up all the juices, makes it a little bit more available to us, and cut it in half. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these really great ingredients and we're going to move to the other side of the kitchen. Wish me luck. Okay. All right, so you're going to want to start with a nice big stock pan, whichever one you like. You're going to turn that heat up to about medium high. We're going to let it get really nice and warm. We're going to take our olive oil. We're going to use 2 tablespoons about. If you have to measure, it's totally fine, but you just want to make sure the bottom of the pan is nice and coated so that we can really start to cook down some of these yummy veggies. This pours out really slow, sorry. Okay. All right, so like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to start with our mirepoix. That's our carrots, our celery, and our onions. And we want to cook these for about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the heat of your stove. We want to cook these just so that they start to get fragrant and so that the onion becomes a little translucent. When you start to smell it, chances are that's about when we're cooking it too. So we can dump all these bad boys in here. Now I'm using a cast iron pan, so it does take a little longer to cook or to heat up. So if you are using an aluminum pan or any nonstick pans, you might get a little warmer before this. So that's completely fine. And we're just gonna start to move this around. Now obviously if you're making this at home, you can start sauteing these while you're chopping the rest of your ingredients, but I wanted to make sure that you saw exactly what we're doing here in the kitchen. So this is starting to heat up really nice and well. So let's show you our black beans. I'm going to talk to you a little bit while this is cooking about how you take beans that are dried and cook them so that you can use them in recipes. So what I did, this is 1 16-ounce bag of dried black beans. You do a quick boil, which is you put the dried beans into a pot of water and you heat it up so it just starts to boil. Turn the water off, cover it, and let it sit for about a half an hour. After that half hour, you can put them into your pressure cooker or Instapot and cook it according to the device that you have. The Instapot, you can cook these for about 8 minutes and then let the steam come out naturally, and you're gonna have these delicious, soft, ready-to-eat beans. If you do that, you wanna make sure that you save your bean broth, basically, the water that the beans are cooked in, because that can replace our vegetable broth. It's gonna give the soup that really, really nice, thick mouthfeel because the starches from the beans are in that water. However, like I said, if you don't feel like doing that, you can absolutely just use canned beans. Your soup might be a little thinner, that's okay. And you're gonna wanna use 6 cups of veggie broth and 4 cans of drained black beans. Okay. So while this is sauteing, you're gonna want to mix it frequently. You don't want any pieces to stick to the bottom. You don't want them to cook nice and even. So I hope everyone's quarantine is going well if you're stuck at home. If you're not at home because you are a healthcare provider, you're a first responder, I just want to say thank you and please stay safe. And I hope that this video will give you just something else to think about other than, you know, what you're dealing with every day. This is also a really, really healthy recipe. One of the best things we can do for our immune system is eat whole foods. So this is gonna have a ton of fiber, a ton of vitamins. It's not gonna bog you down with any heavy dairies. It's gluten-free, it's dairy-free, but best of all, it's really, really filling. So that's why, one of the other reasons that I chose this recipe, again, because it's gonna be great to help keep us healthy, especially the people that have to keep leaving the house due to work. All right, so this is starting to get really nice and fragrant. I wish you guys could smell this because it's really quite yummy. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our garlic in now. We're gonna let that cook for a little bit because we don't want raw garlic in our soup, but like I said, we don't want to overcook it. All right. So another little plug. This shirt that I have on right now is from a local store called Plethora Boutique. Like a lot of retail stores, they are closed right now, but you can buy gift cards for them on their website if you want to give them a call or go to their website. They have the cutest stuff, and if you follow me on social media, chances are half of the time I am absolutely wearing their clothing. They're a local business. They're 2 great women who own it. So if you still are having a cash flow and you'd like to support a great local business, you know, please see my friends at Plethora, get a gift card. They are not paying me for this. I just love them so much and I love their clothes. So help out a local business if you can. All right. So once the garlic goes in, you're just gonna wanna cook it for just a few more minutes. Again, once you start smelling that garlic, once you start seeing the garlic pieces go translucent, those are gonna be really great. So next, after those few minutes, we are gonna put in our spices. So you wanna put your spices in while you're sauteing before any liquid so that they really sink into this mirepoix mixture. It's gonna make it really fragrant. It's gonna add a depth of flavor to the soup that's just gonna be more delicious. So take your spices, dump them on in. And as for the spices, it is, you know, you want to play with it. If you really hate cumin, don't put it in. Put something else in. If you aren't familiar with the spices, if you don't have them, put a little chili powder in, and it's going to be delicious. So make sure that you're doing it to your liking. If you really like a good spice, You can chop up a jalapeno or put in some chili powder and it's gonna be delicious. My favorite thing about cooking is that you don't have to follow the recipe exactly. You can make it to your liking. I love this soup the way that it is, but you really can change it up any way you like. Okay, we need. So when we're sauteing, if you look at the bottom of your pan, you're gonna notice that there's all these little pieces that are getting stuck to the bottom of the pan. That's okay. Those are little like flavor nuggets that are on the bottom of the pan. But if we don't what's called deglaze the pan, we're not gonna get those reincorporated into everything, like into our soup. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna deglaze the pan with this lime that we prepared. So remember, we rolled it out to make the juices more available to us. And we're gonna I'm gonna use my juice press. You're gonna notice that when we deglaze it, it's gonna kind of steam up. It's gonna make a really big sound, and that's because we're taking all of that flavor out of the bottom of the pan. So, maybe not huge, but it's big enough to know. We're gonna do both. Obviously, if you don't have a juice press, you can just use your hands. You just wanna get as much juice out of these guys as possible. Fun fact for anybody who has a garbage disposal, if you want to take those citrus fruits like your lemons, your limes, your oranges, save the used rinds at the end of doing your dishes, put those in the garbage disposal, and it'll actually make it smell really fresh and delightful. Okay. So this is really cooking up really good. Everything's really melding together. Next, we're going to use salsa. This is kind of our Frontera. It's probably one of our favorite jarred salsas. I don't have any homemade salsa at home right now, but you can use any type of salsa you want. I prefer a tomato. You could use a tomatillo of salsa verde, but I just think that the tomato really pairs well with the black bean. And again, this is mild. If you want to have a hot, spicy one, you can throw that in and it'll add a lot of heat to your sauce. There we go. Whew. Okay. So we're just gonna dump this entire salsa jar right in. And again, it's gonna start to deglaze the pan for us. It's gonna bring everything together. There we go. Okay, we're just gonna mix this in. We don't have to let this cook for a long time. Okay, then we're gonna take our black beans. We're gonna dump these guys right into the pot. Now this makes a lot. This is probably gonna make at least 6 to 8 servings. So if you're a family of 4, that's awesome. I like to make a lot of it because my husband absolutely loves this soup and he will eat it for like 3 meals a day until it's gone. And also, like I said, it's really versatile. So you can kind of use it for a whole bunch of things. All right, once the beans are mixed in well, we're gonna take our liquid. So like I said, if you're using canned beans, you're gonna use our vegetable stock, about 6 cups. But if you made your beans from the dried beans, we're gonna use about 6 cups of this bean stock, okay? You're just gonna dump it on in. There we go. And we're gonna mix it. So next, what we'll do is we will let this kind of come up to a boil just to make sure everything's nice and hot. And then we'll let it simmer for a little bit, maybe about 10 minutes. I won't make you sit here with me while I simmer it. And it'll be ready to go, okay? So we're gonna let that cook for just a few minutes. And what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna show you how to make a really simple Pico de Gallo to top your soup with. Black bean soup can be really heavy, and a nice fresh topping will really give it a nice, will really round out the meal. So come on back this way. Okay, so let's get a new bowl. So this stuff I pre-chopped for us because Pico de Gallo is really super simple. We're gonna start with about 1.5 cups, 2 cups of tomatoes. We're gonna chop them up. Tomatoes aren't in season right now, but you can always find a good tomato at the food store. We're gonna take maybe about 1/4 cup of red onion. Here we do wanna use red onion. It's just traditional and it makes it look really pretty. And then we're gonna take 1 clove of garlic minced and probably again about a 1/4 cup of cilantro, maybe a 1/3 cup of cilantro, really chopped up nice. And we're gonna dump those in. Okay. We're gonna also hit it with just a little bit of salt, maybe about a 1/4 teaspoon. And about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. You're always gonna wanna salt and pepper everything you're making. It's gonna give it flavor. Fresh food needs that little pop of salt and pepper. We are also, going to grab our juicer, and we're gonna take juice about 1/2 a lime. There we go. And really get that in there. Okay. All right. And, last but not least, we're gonna take maybe about a tablespoon of olive oil that'll really just kind of hold this together. Okay. And we're gonna grab a spoon and just mix it up. In my opinion, Pico de Gallo is best when it rests for about at least an hour after it's mixed. So you can mix it up really well. There we go. Delicious. And go from there. So other than Pico de Gallo, you can use some other really traditional toppings. You can use sour cream, you can use cheddar cheese, you can use toasted pumpkin seeds, anything your heart desires. But like I said, this is my favorite topping. For those of you out there who are cilantro haters, that is okay. As you can see, there is no cilantro in our black bean soup. Yes, I am talking to you, Kelly, if you are watching. And also, you don't have to put cilantro in the Pico de Gallo. It'll make it a little bit more of a bruschetta, like we have in Italian cuisine, but it'll still taste delicious, and you don't have to use it. All right, let's check again. Our soup is just about ready to be turned down. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this soup cook, just like I said, for another 10 minutes to make sure it's heated all the way through. We are gonna end our Facebook Live cooking video today. And what I'm gonna do in about 10 minutes when the soup is ready, I will post a video of it ready so you guys know what the final product looks like, because I am not super cool like Food Network and have a finished product waiting for us. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this helpful. And if you guys liked it, please let me know and we can make this a weekly thing and we can talk about recipes. If you have any questions, requests, please send them my way. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are safe and healthy and have a wonderful Thursday night.